Dugovich from Revive Environmental. He's going to provide a little bit of an overview of what's been going on in Grand Rapids, and I'll leave it with him.
Hey, thanks, Jason. And it's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. Appreciate you having me on. I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that our company Revive does with PFAS treatment and destruction. This is particularly applicable to Michigan. One of our service centers is in Grand Rapids. So it's where we got our start, and it's still one of our home bases for destruction. So give me a second to fire up this presentation. See if this is coming over here. Okay, can everybody see this?
We can.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to jump into it. As we go here, please feel free to put questions in the chat or come off of mute and ask a question if you have one. This is meant to be, a conversation. So, like I said, please go ahead and, ask questions as you think of them. So what we're going to talk about here in the next half hour, we're just going to go a little bit into Revive, who we are. Everybody here on the call is very aware of PFAS and, the problem that it presents, but we'll get a little bit deeper into kind of the buckets of applications that we specifically deal with here at Revive and the approaches that we're going to take for dealing with them. We'll get into the technology that we operate on, supercritical water oxidation, the PFAS annihilator, like what are those names? How are they applicable for destruction? And then we're going to get into some case studies. We'll talk about some of the work that we've done, both in Michigan and other places. We'll get into some of the data that we've collected from some of the destruction work that we've done over the years. And then the last thing we'll touch on here is our Gap Renew offering. I kind of segment this a little bit differently because this is a different technology group than some of the others that we're going to talk about here at the beginning. It's more specific for really, really large applications for PFAS treatment. Think things like drinking water, like millions of gallons a day. So we kind of put that one in a separate group. And then we'll finish off with any additional questions that folks might have. So briefly, just to talk about Revive, who are we? But Revive is a technology spin out from Battelle Memorial Institute out of Ohio, out of Columbus, right next to Ohio State's campus. Sorry, any UMers, we are right there next to the campus, but we have ingratiated ourselves into Michigan because we started our first commercial facility in Grand Rapids 2 years ago now, actually exactly 2 years ago. So the company has taken this technology that Battelle developed, which again, we'll talk about here, supercritical water oxidation, targeted PFAS destruction, and we've developed this now for commercial use. So using it for the markets that you see down below at the bottom of that slide. And a lot of the work that we've done that you might have heard about, if you've heard about us at all, is really on that left and maybe the left two blocks there, that AFFF and landfill leachate space. Those are the PFAS sources that we're seeing the most movement in right now, where folks are doing the most work. And we're starting to kind of creep our way to the right there, doing more and more work with industrial waters and some groundwater remediations as well. Okay, so what are the different challenges that these buckets of PFAS applications present when we look at this PFAS cycle? I think everybody here has seen some version of this graphic there on the left-hand side. And, I like it because it does a really good job of outlining where these different sources come from and gives the context for the challenges that they present. So again, we talked about drinking water a little bit. Those are really high volume applications, different orders of magnitude compared to some of the others we're going to look at here. And so you need a different kind of technology set or solution when dealing with those. Conversely, AFFF, very, very different. AFFF, for anybody who doesn't know that acronym, that's aqueous film forming foams, firefighting foams, highly concentrated forms of PFAS. Sometimes PFAS can be in the percent level within those materials. So they have a lot of different compounds in them, and a very different set of problems come with that versus maybe the drinking water applications. And then when you start to get into like the groundwaters, the landfill leachates, those event waters, waters that there's PFAS in them, there may be a reoccurring stream, something that's, kind of being generated on a regular basis. It could be, a set volume, a fixed volume that needs to be addressed. Those, again, are very different challenge sets versus maybe your drinking water, your AFFFs. So we kind of developed specific, offerings or approaches for how we actually go about and do those treatments. Everywhere we do treatment, we use the EPA's drinking water standard as kind of the backdrop for what we're doing here. So there aren't a lot of, kind of national regulations or, guidelines for PFAS right now. Really, there's one hard standard, which is that EPA drinking water standard. And so, if treatment is performed down to this standard, according to EPA, that's then deemed safe. And that's really the goal of Revive. And, that's our mission statement as a company, is to make water safe. And so when we talk about destruction here on the call today, you're going to hear us refer to successfully destroying material. You're going to hear us discharging material at different times. When we say that, what we mean is we're using those standards there on the left-hand side as qualified as that is successful destruction. And so when we destroy material, it's got to meet that criteria for us to consider it, actually being destroyed. To give a little bit of a backdrop as to other disposal methods, again, folks are probably familiar with these, so I won't get into these in detail for the sake of time. What I will mention, though, is that they all have something in common, which is they leave a little bit to be desired in terms of fully addressing PFAS from a destruction standpoint. Again, when we define destruction, we're using that definition we just looked at when we said, the EPA drinking water standard is kind of that expectation. And when we look at something like landfill disposal, deep well injection, you're really just moving a problem around. Incineration, it's been around a long time, can work, but there's still some studies being done with some of those products of incomplete combustion. So not to say that it doesn't work for PFAS at all, just there's some more studying that needs to be done there. And then, on-site storage, this is an option that a lot of people have elected for because they don't really know what options are available, or maybe they're not completely comfortable with some of these other ones on the left-hand side of that list. And so when all of these are kind of considered, there's another option, or there's a need for a new option for PFAS disposal. And that's where what we're doing at Revive really comes into play. And so we're going to use these terms PFAS annihilator and supercritical water oxidation a little bit interchangeably right now. They're not exactly the same. PFAS annihilator, that is Revive's trademark term for our IP protected application of supercritical water oxidation. But for simplicity, you can kind of think of them the same today. However, both of them mean that this picture here that you see in front of you, that is a picture of a supercritical water system or a PFAS annihilator. So that is actually the inside of one of the systems that we operate. Again, we have a facility here in Grand Rapids. So the system, you'll notice a couple of things about it. Number one, it's not that big. So the systems themselves are mobile. They come in a 20-foot shipping container, so they can be deployed to sites if needed. This is something that we've done around the United States over the last couple of years. We've done this a couple times in Michigan. Most notably, we were at the Ward Smith Air Force Base not too long ago doing destruction of some concentrated groundwater. We're going to be at the DIU demonstration here in Detroit within the next couple of months. So these systems can absolutely be destroyed and applied for applications where that would make sense. However, they can also be kind of taken and almost daisy chained together where they're next to each other, and you can run them in parallel. So you can run a few different systems at one time to increase throughput, provide a little bit more maybe destruction power. If you needed to destroy different kinds of material, you can do that. And so we've got 3 of these systems in each of our destruction centers, and that gives us that flexibility to then go and process different types of material or just more of the same kind of material. So how does it actually work? Again, the technology group name is called supercritical water oxidation. And essentially what that is we're taking a liquid waste stream, we're elevating the temperature up to about 500 to 600 degrees Celsius. We're elevating the pressure up to about 3,400 PSI. And at those set points, water becomes a different state of matter. We're all familiar with gas, liquids, and solids. Water can actually exhibit a fourth state of matter, which is called supercritical water. That's where that name comes from. And under that state, water can do some pretty cool chemistry where organics become completely dissolved. And that's what allows us to then break those PFAS molecules down for complete mineralization. So the process at a high level looks like you're taking in a liquid waste, elevating the temperature and pressure up to the set point. Then you apply your oxidant. That's where that last part of the name comes from. We're using hydrogen peroxide. Then those PFAS molecules break down and they break down into their core elements. And then on the back end, you get that separation of majority of clean water, again, defining that clean water is meeting that standard that we talked about. Then you'll also get a small amount of salt brine. That's where all of those fluorines come out as like a sodium chloride or as a different form of salt. Any other maybe kind of nasty stuff that came along with the liquid will come out there as well. And then we'll also get a little bit of an emissions from that process. Not a significant amount, but we do get a little bit of CO2 and water vapor generated as part of that process. And so the way that we apply this in practice is we're taking this and walking it through a couple of key steps. And this is where we'll start to introduce what we'll call the separation or concentration step. And so we're going to look at a couple of applications here later on where we need to do some kind of prep work ahead of destruction of the PFAS, because the process that I just described works really well for PFAS, but there's a big lift to do it, meaning there's a lot of work that goes into that. And so to do that, we want to make sure we're squeezing that PFAS down into the small space that we can to make the process more efficient. So sometimes we'll implement a separation or a concentration step ahead of time to really reduce that volume down. So think things like reverse osmosis. It could be a membrane treatment system. It could be a technology called foam fractionation. All of those could be applicable when we talk about volume reduction. And then we go through the process that we described about elevating that temperature and pressure, doing the destruction. And then on the back end, this is where what the PFAS annihilator really does separates itself from all the other destruction methods that we talked about, or disposal methods, I should say, that we talked about earlier in the presentation. We're capturing all of that liquid waste. We're verifying the destruction through PFAS analytical. We're sending that away for analysis through a third-party accredited lab, making sure that it meets that standard, and then we discharge it through a permanent discharge point. And so that process allows us to work with folks who have these PFAS materials to truly remove some of that liability, because it's no longer sitting on a site. It's generating risk for them. It's been destroyed. It's gone through a permitted process, and now it's gone. And so the way that the EPA has viewed this, again, for the sake of time, we won't go through all of this, but I encourage anybody that hasn't read the EPA's framework for evaluating PFAS disposal, please do. The link is on the bottom of the slide. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but if you go on the EPA's site, you can find this. But they give a pretty thorough evaluation of all these different disposal technologies. And they list what are called these emerging technologies under one group. And they say essentially, hey, if you're looking at evaluating a PFAS destruction method, those 6 categories should be considered when talking about, are they, kind of verified or maybe, legitimate destruction technologies. And so Revive in our process has met or exceeded all of their expectations from, like a technology development standpoint, analytical verification standpoint, all the way through, the community impact and the regulatory impact standpoint. So that, again, that document does a really good job of kind of explaining exactly what the criteria are that we're meeting. And then again, we've taken that and exceeded it. So how do we actually now take this and maybe work with some of the customers or end users for this technology? This is a nice kind of simplified graphic that outlines how we take this and use it maybe in like a place like Michigan. So we've got a service center, like I said, in Grand Rapids, where we're operating 3 of these systems kind of right next to each other. And we're taking different kinds of waste streams and processing them there. And typically we'll take maybe like an AFFF. Again, that's straightforward. You're taking a concentrated foam, you just ship it to the facility, we'll destroy it and send you your certificate of processing. Some of these other applications will require a little bit more work or a little bit more consideration. But all of these essentially operate in a branch network process where we're taking different waste streams from around the region and kind of funneling them down into the fixed facility. And that's what allows us to then, do what we've done with these full scale facilities, and provide, a complete destruction technology in a cost effective way. So I mentioned we have the Grand Rapids facility that's been open since March of 23. Again, that's a facility we're very proud of. It's the first of its kind. We've processed all different types of materials there, landfill leachates, AFFFs, some contaminated groundwaters, et cetera. And then last year, we were fortunate to be able to open our Ohio facility, which is in Columbus, where we commissioned 3 of these systems to primarily destroy AFFF. And that facility was designed, again, primarily for AFFF through what we've done with some of the states doing AFFF state takebacks. So Ohio and New Hampshire, for example, have executed collection programs where they've taken a lot of volume of AFFF from around their states, tens of thousands of gallons, and sent them to this facility. And those PFAS annihilator systems are really tuned for AFFF destruction. And so let's now talk about these different applications. How do we approach them? How do we address them? We'll talk about AFFF here, then we'll transition in kind of like the medium reoccurring waste stream space, and then so on and so forth. But let's start with AFFF. So if anybody has experience with this material, again, just to recap it, the firefighting foam, fortunately, I should say, it works really well. It's very harmful. So it's now being phased out heavily around the United States. FAA has mandated that airports need to move away from it. So we're dealing with a lot of this material on a regular basis. These concentrates come in all different names and sources. I see a couple of names on the call that could probably even tell you more than I could about AFFF. But they're materials that, again, have a lot of PFAS in them and need to be phased out. Through that process, there's sometimes additional material generated that comes with the transition of an AFFF maybe to a fluorine-free option, or maybe something that's completely different. So we'll also deal with like the rinsates, so the rinse water that comes through the process of maybe rinsing off equipment. And then some other work that we've done, which is really on the cutting edge, is using solvent technology to clean some of the fire trucks that have AFFF in them that need to be repurposed. They can't just be thrown out. So we've gone and actually used a solvent to wash out a truck to strip the PFAS off of it, and then allow that department to reuse that fire truck. In all of these cases, we've taken these materials and then destroyed them, again, through that PFAS annihilator process. What does that data look like whenever we do this process? This chart is a little bit hard to read, I'll admit. I will send this out to Jason and the group after we're done here, so you can poke through it at your own leisure if you want to dig into this. But I'll just kind of highlight a couple of things here. This is pretty typical for the type of AFFF that we'll see. So this specific formulation is an Anslate 3% or 6% alcohol resistant. Essentially what that means is, in the world of AFFFs, this is one of the hardest to treat AFFFs out there because those alcohol resistance are very, very tough and durable. And through one pass with the PFAS annihilator, we got well beneath those EPA drinking water standards. Those are highlighted in those green bars there, with one pass of operation. And then maybe one or two other, kind of lines I'll just kind of point to here. Third one down here on the left-hand side, that PFHXA, we saw 75 million parts per trillion of that one compound coming in with that formulation, and that got knocked down to 3 parts per trillion, really on the edge of even the reportable limit. So it really speaks to the power of the technology that one pass through that operation can reduce the PFAS down that much. Now we'll get into a different kind of group of applications. We'll get into what, again, we call those reoccurring streams. I'll kind of call them those medium volumes. High volumes, we'll talk about weight or drinking water. So, these reoccurring volumes, these like think landfill leachates or, maybe contaminated groundwater type of applications. These are sometimes difficult to treat because of, number one, you've got more volume. So how do you, treat that in a cost-effective way? There could be co-contaminants that can be really tough to deal with there. So we'll implement a lot of times one or more technologies to reduce that volume. We're going to talk about one here over the next couple of slides. That's foam fractionation. For anybody who's not familiar with it, foam fractionation is essentially you're taking air and sparging it up through water. You're just bubbling water in a very specific way, but it works really well for removing PFAS because you bubble it to the surface, you take it off, you don't get all those other nasty contaminants with it. So I got a picture here what that looks like here in a second, but it's a really nice technology for treating PFAS in a high volume stream and not spending a lot of energy in the process doing so. So what that typically looks like, again, we'll look at a source where you've got maybe a landfill leachate or industrial waste system. And we can do one of two things when folks have these types of applications where they need to do treatment. We'll either implement this separation technology or technologies at their site. That's represented by that pipe there on the left-hand side. Or we can truck it to one of our fixed facilities to do the whole kit and caboodle at our facility. So you can just take the raw water, truck it to our facility, and we'll do all the separation and concentration there on site. And so again, you'll take that water in one of the two ways that I described, and you'll send it through that probably foam fractionation process. And that's actually what that looks like there in the center of the screen. So it's a pretty cool technology. It literally bubbles just PFAS up to the surface. You kind of generate this foam. Over time, that foam will collapse back into a liquid, and that can then just be carried off and sent off for destruction. And so what that allows folks to do is they'll meet an on-site discharge limit if they have on-site, or if it's off-site, then we meet the off-site discharge limit. But in both cases, you're removing that PFAS. So whatever that discharge limit that needs to be met, you could do that successfully. And then finally, like I said, you take that small amount of hyperconcentrate, really, really highly concentrated PFAS, but in a small volume. You take it to that PFAS annihilator fixed facility, and then we'll destroy it through that process that we've talked about. And so a case study where we've done this, just to kind of paint the picture of how this might work, we're dealing with a landfill that generates about 100 million gallons per year of leachate. And we've taken a couple of these foam fractionation systems, deployed it to their site, separated the PFAS out on a recurring basis. That allows them to go and then meet their discharge limit to their local POTW. And then we take that small amount of concentrated foam, ship it to our facility. In this case, we're doing this in Ohio, and we destroy it, reducing that PFAS down to that standard that we talked about. And to give you kind of a sense of the scale of how efficient these foam fractionation systems are, we're generating about 1,500 gallons a year of foam while treating about 100 million gallons per year of water. That's a huge reduction in volume. That's what really makes the economics work there. And it's a great way for this facility to meet a pretty strict PFOA, PFOS discharge limit that they then have to go and, again, discharge to the local POTW. And then just to kind of wrap up, again, we'll take that foam, destroy it. So this kind of outlines, for a 1 million gallons treated, that gives you about 14 gallons of hyperconcentrate. So that's roughly how much we'll take and then run through the annihilator process and destroy. And this chart here on the right-hand side, this gives you probably the top kind of 12 to 15 PFAS compounds that we find in there. We're running a much larger data set, capturing a minimum of those EPA 1633 compounds, but these were the ones that were most present or showed up in a significant concentration. So again, you're getting more or less a lot of those PFOA, PFOS, those long chain compounds with this particular leachate. And through one pass operation, we destroyed these materials down to well below those drinking water standards. I mean, we're dealing with the tenths of a parts per trillion, a lot of times at that reportable detectable limit. So really at the edge of what science can even measure. Okay, so now we'll transition with the last couple slides here. We'll talk about GAC Renew. Again, this is the technology that we're going to talk about here for drinking water mostly. And the reason that we're talking about drinking water is because drinking water deals with much, much larger volumes than landfill leachates or industrial wastewaters. Some of these drinking water plants are doing tens of millions of gallons of throughput per day. And, I said on that other slide, we're dealing with 100 million gallons per year of landfill leachate, and we've got 3 of those foam frac systems on there. Well, just imagine if you scale that up, you need like a parking lot of foam frac. So it's just not feasible. So that's where something like an adsorption technology works really well to remove PFAS. So GAC, or granular activated carbon, it's a proven technology for removing PFAS, does a great job of getting it out of the water source that it's treating. However, the problem that the current market has is after that GAC has been used, now what do you do with it? It has to go off for disposal. Historically, that just goes to a landfill, and then you kind of just put that PFAS back in that PFAS cycle that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. And so what GAC Renew does is it allows us to then break that cycle, take that GAC, reuse it, but then also send that PFAS to the end of its life. And so what this technology is we're doing an in-vessel regeneration of that material. And so it's pretty cool because we can take, say, a truck of solvent, run it through one of these GAC vessels, strip that PFAS off. We'll take that truck off to a recovery station where we'll actually recover the solvent, meaning we'll use something like distillation. We'll get about 80 to 90% of that solvent back as clean that can then be reused. And then that small amount of distillate off the bottom, that can then be taken and destroyed in that PFAS annihilator process. So this process, in addition to all of those benefits I just mentioned, it allows you to maximize the amount of uptime in that system. You're not having to take it offline to service it. You're not using up a lot of raw material. You're not, you're just throwing, pounds and pounds of GAC into a landfill. You get to reuse that material. So it really, kind of provides a greener footprint for the treatment process. So this is a technology that we're currently in the second of 3 phases of scaling up. So right now we're working through several bench and pilot scales of these, where we're taking these and doing at the smaller scales, think hundreds of pounds of material, and then eventually taking this next year and beyond into the potable phase. So taking this and now taking that to the drinking water market. We're starting with the non-potable because you need a lot of regulation, kind of blessing, and you need NSF certification to use this in the potable space, and we need that data that we've been doing this with a process to get that certification. So we're starting non-potable and then moving to potable over the next year or so. This is kind of a good idea of what the data looks like when we go through one of these processes. So this is an application that we did recently where we took it was actually a chrome plating facility that was treating their wastewater with GAC. So this is pretty nasty stuff, very loaded up, had a lot of those kind of harder to treat PFAS on there. You could see some of the notable PFAS compounds, your PFOS, PFOA, even some of those harder to remove ones like the fluorotelomers. And this process removed more than 97% of that material. In some cases, those compounds remove almost to 100%. And so this is the type of data that we see when we go through and do this process. We would say we kind of have a threshold of 80% as the bare minimum to what we would consider to be successful. That would represent a similar removal rate to what would be seen through a standard kind of traditional thermal reactivation process. So kind of takes that legacy process and really just elevates it to another level. So just to summarize kind of what we talked about here today, again, we talked about the PFAS annihilator, supercritical water oxidation, Great process for taking highly concentrated PFAS material, reducing those compounds down to low levels, single-digit parts per trillion or non-detect levels of PFAS. We do that in a number of different ways, working with different technologies at times. If it's a larger volume application where you're dealing with, your groundwaters, your wastewaters, we'll pair that with the appropriate concentration or separation technology. And then when it comes to those really high volume applications, like maybe a drinking water facility, you've got another solution set there in GAC Renew, which is a way to kind of accomplish some of those same goals and then also provide a greener footprint for those GAC applications. So thank you. I know that was a little bit quick, but wanted to get through everything for the sake of time. And I do have a couple of minutes if anybody had any questions.
Eric, since I butchered your last name, what's the correct pronunciation?
Eric Drugach.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you, Eric. This is amazing. So we do have a couple questions. And first, I just have to give a shout out to Grand Rapids, though, as a fellow Grand Rapids person. The west side is the best side. So, okay, Lois, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So don't laugh at me. I saw one of the byproducts. You're mineralizing the fluoride, sodium fluoride. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean this seriously. What happens to the sodium fluoride? It's not going to end up in my toothpaste, is it?
The sodium fluoride goes through a process. This is actually one of the ways that Revive has done this differently than other supercritical water oxidation vendors. We have a proprietary process for removing those compounds, and it gets taken off into a salt brine. So it comes out in like a separate drum, doesn't go through the wastewater that we discharge, and that material will go to a liquid industrial byproducts processor. So if anybody's familiar with like your Valacors or Clean Earths of the world, they will take it and then reprocess it.
Okay, I just wonder how it's used then, because then you've got this volume of material. How is it recycled into, I assume, other products? Hopefully not PFAS again.
Yeah, it actually doesn't generate that much volume. We only get about grams per gallon of water processed. So think about maybe a 55-gallon drum per month that we generate. So it's really not a lot of material. And again, we'll take that and send it to another, kind of liquid industrial company who will take it and treat it and repurpose it.
Okay, I guess I still don't know. But thank you. That was very interesting. And I'm glad to see that this technology has developed this far. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Tony.
Yes, Eric, thank you for the presentation. Question for you. And you may have said this. If you did, I apologize. You have some different processes there. Are each one of them certified by EPA, and have you met those certifications?
Yeah, so in terms of like the PFAS annihilator, EPA doesn't do a certification on them. They just go through the guidelines for disposal, and they'll say, here are the criteria that we would expect from these disposal processes. So that's really the best that they'll provide. And so we've met them. The other ones like foam fractionation, granular activated carbon, RO, they're legacy technologies. They've been around a long time. I'd have to do some research into exactly how the EPA talks about them, but they've been around for decades, so they've got a lot of historical use for these types of applications.
How about the renew process?
That is still developing. Yep. So that we haven't entered into that space yet in terms of getting that kind of certification.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I don't see any others, and I know you're on a time crunch. Thank you so much for coming, especially on such short notice. This is really, really exciting stuff that you guys are doing, like really exciting. You're giving me hope for the future, so I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you all, and you should be very proud of your state because Michigan has been on the forefront of this, and Grand Rapids couldn't be a better host. So thank you for all the work that you all have done.
Go team. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Bye. Kelly, So sorry, everyone, that we shook up the order like that. We planned that really quick, and I was really, really glad he was able to come and do that because I learned a lot from that. So we're going to now go back to the beginning of what would be the meeting and do the roll call. So, and you guys can turn on your cameras if you want, please.
Hey, Amy Stockman.
I'm here.
And if anybody has any community updates during roll call, feel free to share them. Brad?
Yes, I'm here and I don't have any new updates. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have a new member tonight, Cynthia Williams. She is from the Otsego area. Cynthia?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm a little under the weather, so normally I don't sound this bad, but I'm very excited to be here. I do have a community update for Otsego. MSU just began all of the studies in our area, and they have identified 2 additional contamination sites. One of them is in Plainwell at the old paper mill, and one of them is down in Allegan. It looks like it's kind of trickling down from the Menasha dumping in the Kalamazoo River. So I'm looking forward to getting those results and sharing them with you guys.
Thank you, Cynthia. We're excited to have you on the team.
Thank you.
Connie? You there, Connie?
Here.
Thank you, Connie. Dan Brown.
Dan is here.
Thank you. And Connie, I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. John?
Yep, I'm here. No updates right now.
Lois?
I'm here. I don't have an update.
Lynn put in the chat she's not going to be able to make it tonight. Mary?
I'm here and no update. Thank you.
Patty? Rick?
Here, no updates.
Sandy?
I'm here and no updates.
Celine sent me an email. She's not able to make it tonight. Teresa? Tony?
Yes, I'm here. I do have a few updates from Oscoda and also in the Southeast Michigan area where I live, spend most of my time. First off, a couple from Oscoda, and I think many of you are aware, but we have been able to work out bring about a reorganization of the Air Force environmental cleanup program at closed bases. That's 39 bases across the country, Wordsmith being the pilot for all of that. And I think just in terms of this group, that I think something I think that's significant is that this has come about through a collaboration with our community experts. And we have a commitment from the experts in the Air Force to work collaboratively. And that's a new word and that we're going to try to give meaning to there. So we're really pleased with that development and hope that it continues to move forward. We also in Oscoda will be marking the 15th anniversary of the launching of the first PFAS investigation at Wordsmith and also in Michigan. It was in March of 2010, and 15 years is a long time. And I think that we've come a long way. I think that our community really wants to thank in particular Bob Delaney, who launched that investigation and who actually MPART was his brainchild. And without him and his foresight and his willingness actually to do some very courageous things, none of us, I think, would be here tonight if we wouldn't be having an MPART discussion. And so kind of marking that anniversary, I think, is significant. And we obviously have a lot more work to do. It's great that everybody's here and willing to dig in and work on this. And I hope we can continue to move forward. Another couple things in the Southeast Michigan area. I think I shared this or had somebody share this. There will be a workshop, a clean and affordable water workshop with the University of Michigan School of Public Health in Ypsilanti on March 24th. I will be one of the panelists along with some folks from U of M, Michigan State, and We the People of Detroit. There is a virtual option for it. And so you can just register online for that. And then finally, last but not least, we had scheduled a Detroit PFAS community meeting with a no defense PFAS film screening. We got snowed out in February, so that's now been rescheduled to Sunday, April 13th at 1:30. Not a virtual option for that one, but we'd love to see anybody who would like to attend. And that's in Detroit at the Solanus Casey Center. So thank you for bearing with me through all of that.
Thank you, Tony. Danielle Burlingame. Gail Manswitz. Gail Dugan. Jason Legowski.
Yep, here.
Joe. Lynn McIntosh. Pam McQueer. Portia. Richard Burns. Tamara. Stacy. Bill Barnett.
I'm here. I do have an update. I want to thank Sandy, first of all, for coming up to Cadillac in Herring Township. She was introduced to a couple ladies that are running the Cadillac Advocates for Clean Water. And she sat down with Herring Township. It was highly informative, well received with them, and a couple of our LDFA members met her. We're very impressed with her and what she shared and what she could do to help us moving forward. So just want to thank Sandy right off the bat for that effort to come up to our town. I apologize, Sandy, I didn't get to see you in person. I had a court date that day that was outrageous, and either basketball game, just a busy day. So I'm sorry I missed that, and I hope to see you, or I'll come down and see you anytime if necessary.
I'll be up there again.
All right, you were a smash hit.
Okay.
So, and you've been through this, and it helped people, and it's great to have you in the committee here. MPART, Deagle, the gang did a nice town hall, virtual for our community, and gave a nice update there. We're continuing to collect data up here. There's a lot of private testing that's going on right now that's coming back that just is indicating that it's in different pockets throughout our city and in 2 different townships. Basically 50% of our wells are over in the city are over criteria for federal, and PFAS is detected in 90% of the wells tested. So we're an industrial town, and we're finding out that it is in a lot of people's well water. Just politically, our mayor and city council member have resigned partially over this issue. There were internet harassment, threats of violence. I will say death threats, but they were ridiculous comments made by a 26-year-old kid down in Vestaburg who got wound up because he has relatives up here. The city manager's wife went online and tried to block people from knowing about a meeting that he was being evaluated on. It just got crazy, and threats were made against her, the city manager, and the mayor. So 3 of the 5 remaining members have to pick new people. They moved to Mayor Pro Tem over. It's just there's been ripples that would you typically would not see coming. Even a citizen as of today, yesterday, has come forward asking the prosecutor and possibly the AG to investigate and look into the LDFA and the way they've been running the business, which is a political body and apparently not complying with Open Meetings Act issues, notice, things like that. And upset that the public wasn't notified sooner. And that's an independent person who lives on the other side of town who's caught the PFAS bug and is very interested in unraveling what's happened and how we got to where we are in this industrial town. So with that, those are the updates and things are moving forward. I try to keep you updated. Sorry if I inundate you with emails and or other things, but if I were on the committee, I'd like to read what goes on in other towns, and hopefully that helps you going forward to avoid pitfalls or see in advance what might need to be done to help a community that's struggling. And there's a lot of health issues that are related. I just happen to live in a small enough town to know, and maybe cancer is this rampant in every city in America, but they're in the areas where these people have lived throughout the years. Looking back, there's been, in my opinion, a high incidence of cancer in the pockets that are coming up, and it's not everywhere. It seems to be located near our industrial park or in that circle in the outer edge is what I call it. But if there is one, it's still being looked at. And the testing we've had, the efforts of MPART and Eagle have been fantastic to move this to an open, transparent situation, and with the eye toward a solution. There's a group of people getting together with senators, et cetera, that are in charge of purse strings to take give finances to help this. And things are moving in the right direction because there's a solution getting looked at. The EPA is the oversight actually of this industrial park, so to speak, because there was two Superfund sites there, but Eagle has been doing a heck of a lot, and a lot of it is outside the zone of the industrial park where contaminated waters either migrated or coming from other sources and migrated, and or is just there from the 70s and 80s when this company, a plating company, went crazy with poor environmental practices that were similar to other companies, but because PFAS was the chemical, it ended up having this forever ramification, and we're just figuring it out. And Eagle and MPART took the lid off this by being smart enough to know that they should test south and west, and by doing so, they opened up a whole set of circumstances that nobody expected, because the groundwater was supposed to be going mostly north and even northeast to a degree. So with that said, it's been quite an experience. I try to pull back and keep my neck out of it, but there's a lot of politics. I'm not running for mayor. I get a lot of people accusing me by exposing and or discovering this with everyone's help, the citizens, Eagle, MPART, COG, people, everybody's helping. But I'm just there to help my community, and I can't wait till our mayor election's over in November so people will stop bothering me, begging me to run and or accusing me. So in other words, I have a little controversy with me, and I'm trying to stay away from that and stick with, let's work for a solution, recognize how we got here, and come up with a plan to get fresh water to as many people as possible.
You're doing great work there, Bill. Thank you for all that you've done and keeping us updated on that. I did want to give one update that I forgot to give that's not really about my community, but for those of you who knew Mary Zach, who was with Otsego and has been an incredible advocate and tireless worker in the Otsego area. She passed away, I think, a couple weeks ago now. And she was quite a powerhouse down there. So think of that community, because I think she did a lot for that community, and I have a lot of respect for her. So I was sorry to hear that. So with that, let's move on to subcommittees, and I'd like to have a discussion about subcommittees after we go through the updates, if we have any updates. So is there an update on public notification? Anybody here on that group? Rick, were you on that group, or anybody? Anyone know anything?
Yeah, we didn't meet at all last month. So.
Okay. Any updates on membership committee?
Sandy, this is Mary.
Yep.
We did not meet, but we were working on the survey and that, and I'll report on that later.
Okay, great. Anything on the website committee?
Yes, we did meet and had a good discussion.
Brad, I can always count on you to pull it out. Good for you. Thank you. All right.
Well, we're small but mighty, I guess. That's the way of describing it. So anybody that's interested in, we do have some good discussions at 4:30 before our main meeting at 6. So yes, we discussed last month the fact that the wastewater treatment plants were being listed on the GIS page, and there are going to be some changes, and that I believe is going to be going forward shortly. We also understand that the links to the RIDE page or Enviro page are going to actually, for each site, on each site web page, there's going to be ultimately links that will be useful for getting the actual data. And the department is looking for working toward getting a more truncated version of listing the sites, and that's a very complicated process because there's so many steps that have to be done. But that's also moving forward. And one of the other things we discussed, and Rick's going to fill us in a little bit about that, as something else that he brainstormed that he has that he'd like to share. So that'll be it from me. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a brainstorm or not, but anyway, the website plays a big role in terms of raising awareness. But I was thinking about, we have all sorts of awareness weeks. We have Voter Safety Week, Invasive Species Week, and I was thinking about potentially having a PFAS Awareness Week, and this would be a joint project between MPART, Eagle, and the COG. And the COG would be involved with setting up events in their communities. And then MPART would maybe have one day of events, webinars, presentations that would be more community oriented. They do a wonderful job with the PFAS summits. I like to attend those, and there's a lot of really good information on that. But something for communities, and I think we get a lot of sponsors. Labs for water testing, and engineering firms, things like that. But we would have events specifically for our communities to raise awareness, and we could hold meetings in libraries, we could hold meetings in township halls and things like that, talk about planning and zoning, how to just be aware of PFAS, how to select PFAS-free products. We have a lot of information on the website about that, but have discussions in our individual communities. So it'd be something for 2026. It'd take a lot of planning, but I think as a COG, we're always trying to figure out how to educate communities, how to notify communities. But this would be a real good way to focus all of our energy and just do community-oriented presentations. Like in Kent County, we could have one on PFAS and health because we have so many exposed people. Something about PFAS and fish, in fishing communities. Something about zoning, just different topics because it's water and it's all the products that we buy. And I just think having an awareness week, there's weeks like Boater Safety Week, which, I think it brings people's attention up, but there's really not a lot of events. There may be a life-saving, seminar or something, but I think we're looking for something the COG can do, and this would be a really good way to all work together and work together with MPART and just raise the awareness across the state, and hopefully other states will look on and follow through with their own programs. But then we could have a national PFAS awareness week. But it's just impacting health. It's impacting our water resources. It's impacting our the products that we buy, and I just think we need to raise that awareness, and this would be a good chance for us to work together on something like that. So,
Rick, I love it. I love it. I love it. What do you guys think? This is the most, come on, peeps, come on. At least
I
give
absolutely
thumbs.
love that idea. Yeah, I think it'll be really useful for just spreading awareness. And it's currently groundwater awareness week, so I don't see why there shouldn't be a PFAS awareness week.
Right. Daniel says he supports it. Cynthia loves it. Mary loves it.
Good.
Those are all in the chats. Anybody know how you do this? Yeah, Tony, did you have your
I was
hand
just
up?
saying, no, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm going to have a discussion with Abby next month, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, there's always questions about money and things like that, but I think if we're willing to spend our time and help organize events, and all of us are participating in events in our communities to a certain extent, but this would be a chance, and we could even have some speakers that would be willing to go different places, and make presentations.
Yeah.
But I kind of gave a talk at the North Muskegon Library last month about PFAS, and I was surprised. We had 35 people. I mean, the room was full, and I had a good 40 minutes of questions, just general public questions about PFAS. And I thought, geez, the libraries are unused resource, and hopefully they're going to giving some of the information off the MPART page about PFAS-free products, and they were going to put something up on their webpage. And they're connected with all the Muskegon area libraries, so hopefully that'll take on some more usage. But I think if we all put our minds together and just come up with some community-oriented events. I mean, we could have water testing, how to sample your own water. I mean, we have instructions on the website, but actually having a professional come in and talk about that. We could give away some free water tests or something. I mean, that was really good with the National PFAS Conference. But yeah, I think it's something that we should talk about and brainstorm. And if Eagle's interested and MPART's interested, then let's all work together and make this a real good event. So
I love the idea. Anybody from the state agencies got any feedback on it? Or I know, or maybe you don't feel like you could say anything, and if that's the case, that's fine too. But I get it,
Hi. Yeah, Abby's on vacation this week, but and I was on vacation last week, but in the 10 minutes we had to talk about things. She had seen your email already, Rick, requesting a conversation, which Kelly has since set up. Yeah, we are totally in favor of this, and we look forward to having a first conversation amongst what'll probably be many along those lines. So
super.
We're with you.
Great.
And Sandy,
that brings us to that. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
Yes, I forgot to mention, and it piggybacks a little bit on what one of Rick's comments about people being aware of some of the resources that are available. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Mike Jury, because those of us who were able to see his presentation at the PFAS Summit, it is now presentation is now posted on the PFAS Basics page. So if you haven't seen it, I would recommend that you take a look at it, because it does provide some really good basic information about PFAS. It's PFAS 101 and 10 things to know about PFAS. So
Great. Good.
yeah, there we go.
Um,
Kelly's on top of it. Thank you.
Kelly knows where everything is. That website is pretty impressive. People from other states like to come and use that. So, and that brings me to this last subcommittee, which doesn't really exist, but I think it fits right into what Rick was talking about. So I appreciate that. So I think one of the challenges right now is that we did that poll at the end of last year and talked about what our priorities were and set those up. And we seem to have some trouble getting traction or participation in these subcommittees. And so maybe subcommittees aren't a thing we want to do. I just don't know how we move forward getting traction on things without kind of breaking aside and doing it. So I'm open to ideas. The assisting communities and educating communities and being a support was one of the things we wanted. I think in the first round of interest there, Mary, I think you and I were it. I think there was confusion about the name. I think this time it was Stacy and I maybe. So I don't know what to do, you guys. I guess that's what I'm saying is I would love to have us all throw our effort into having a PFAS week, but do we want to do this by subcommittee? Do we still want to focus on public notification? What do we want this MPART group to do, I guess is my question. And I'm open to ideas or discussion. Though I know it's sunny and warm outside in March, so.
Sandy, I can speak for myself. This is Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
I'm struggling with finding time right now. I would love to do it. I would love to do both of them, but I'm just not sure how I would do it. And until we get the people who want to work on those groups, we can't really even pick a time, because generally we wait until the people who want to do that group have the, find the most convenient time for most of them. So I'm not sure either how we go forward, but.
So one big issue is just the time that all of us are strapped for time right now. Is that kind of what you're saying, Mary, you think?
I don't know. I know.
Okay. For you,
things have changed for me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
I still would participate whenever I'm able, and that, but it's not as easy as it was.
Okay. Anybody else have ideas? Amy?
Yeah, I just have I wonder if the best approach would be to sort of broaden the net in terms of the whole committee first. So get more people involved in the group and then work on the subcommittees, only because I think what's happening is people are maybe a little burned out, but I don't know, it's true. It's my second meeting, but it sounds like people are busy and there's not enough hands in the pot, maybe, I don't know. So is it, do we try to attract people to the group itself and then focus on subcommittees after that? So then kind of put people in their categories that they're interested in, because it's not a really very big group considering the prevalence of this issue in the state. And it's not, I imagine there are a lot more people that are interested. I think the key is to give them a really clear call to action, like this is what you'll be doing, or this is how we need your help. And I would think that we would be able to get some more people in and then divide up in those committees and have more people, so you don't have to worry about, 3 people in this committee that are doing, all of this work. I don't know. That's my 2 cents anyway.
Okay. That makes sense. So if we had more bodies, we could have more members in participating in subcommittees. Okay.
Amy, I appreciate that. I'm wondering if you have any ideas on how we do attract those people, or that we've tried to come up with some ways to do it, and frankly have struggled with that. So if you have any ideas, the membership team would love to hear them. And
I'd love to plug in somehow on that. So I don't know if it's us talking offline about kind of what you've done and what hasn't worked, and maybe I can come up with some other ideas, like a marketing plan, free with no money. But
no, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, I'm just saying, I know we don't have any money to spend on things, but a guerrilla marketing plan. So I'd love to hear what you've done. Maybe if you want to maybe shoot me a note and we can set up a time to chit chat. And if anybody else in this group is interested in that side of things, maybe you want to, throw it in the chat or whatever, and we can make sure you're included in that as well.
That sounds great.
Anybody else have thoughts on this? I mean, my other thought is that the role of the COG, or is our role of the COG simply to listen to the state agencies and provide them with feedback? Then the second thing becomes, do we need to meet every month? Or I guess I'm struggling here to figure out what we need to do with this group to keep it lively and to keep it engaged and to keep it moving forward. And the fact that no one's talking tells me how unlively and unengaged it is. Daniel, please save me. Yes.
Yeah. So just speaking for myself. So, well, I guess to what Amy was just describing, I do think amongst the broader network of people that have been looking at PFAS over the last few years, there definitely is a sense of burnout right now for all of the obvious reasons as you look around at the world right now. Right. I think the lame duck session in the state legislature really actually was a pretty tough pill to swallow, because there were all these things on the table and just nothing moved forward. So there was this real sense of just institutional letdown that is really only just can be blamed on a few key folks, but it's still affecting everybody. But I also I want to be mindful of that burnout and not push people to re-engage too fast. But I do think there's still plenty of work to be done. Speaking for myself, just on the timing and how do we keep the group lively, evenings are just really tough. And I was just kind of taking an inventory of like all my evening engagements coming up over the next couple months. For parents with kids, it is just pretty tough to swing evening engagements. And if you've got kids in school with school events and everything, I assume it would be even harder. So just for myself, I'm always happy to help wherever I can, and I'm always reachable by email. If folks want help drafting things up or thinking through things or just talking during the workday, it's definitely easier for me to fit things in, and especially because this is part of my professional job is to think about this stuff. So I'm happy to help. Easier for me to engage during the workday for sure. I'll stop there.
Okay, those are good points. Rick?
Yeah, I think the education piece, I really appreciate, like the presentation today, tonight, and the ones that we had on the well logic and the eat safe fish, all the different presentations. I think that the educational piece is really good, but the best way to learn is to actually do things. And that's what I like about the Web Review Committee, because there's always something that's going on and we can always comment or make suggestions, and there's not a lot of money to do some of the real, like, update the websites every month or something. But I think we're making really good progress in that committee. And I think that again, maybe we should be working on events for our communities, or just getting out there and talking with people about PFAS more. Some of us, do a lot of public speaking, and I think that's really good. But I'm always looking for feedback and how to improve messaging and things like that. And the only way to do that is to, go out and do things, get critiqued or get feedback on it. And, I think the public notification committee, I think it's always going to be hampered by lack of resources. We want to have, faster notification, but there just isn't enough resources. So, how do we still notify people? And I think, the more public events that we have, the more information we get out there, the better. And the website does a little bit of that, but there's so much more in person that you can learn, and you always learn from the people that you're talking to too. So I was just thinking that if we start getting more event related, bringing, and a lot of this, it's virtual, so maybe we should encourage, like when we have a CAG meeting, maybe invite some of the other people to our CAG meeting.
Oh.
Or if there's, the invitations go out, and I think I think there'd probably be interest to for other communities to sit in on one of our CAG meetings, just to hear what we're talking about, and to hear we get the updates from MDHHS on the blood studies and things like that. I think that would be really good of general interest. So the more we can share and interact with each other, the better. And I think the subcommittees, I don't know, they've had some success, and some are more successful than others, but I just think we need to figure out more ways that we can interact with each other. So, and
I agree.
that's just my thoughts.
So here's what I'm hearing from the group is that educational stuff is helpful, and it kind of invigorates people and gets stuff. I'm seeing everybody totally agrees with Rick about everything, by the way. So I got 3 of those messages really quick. So educational stuff, I think we can line up different presentations to come here, which I do think would help. I think meeting times, I do hear are tough. I have every evening this week and next week filled up with meetings. So I agree with you, Daniel. Evening meetings are getting really hard. I love the idea of inviting people to things, but it means you all be coming to more evening meetings. I really love the idea of getting more involved in communities, and maybe that's how we do more education. Tony, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just some random thoughts. I don't think that it's an either or that you have to have subcommittees or just do presentations. I think that there's some things that can be done. And speaking to me personally, I'm not burned out, but I'm spread very thin, and that just signing up for more meetings is just very hard for me to do, because I'm doing a lot of stuff with this. But I think that and Rick's idea for the the week, I think, is great. And I think doing some events, I think, is great. I think that an area that we maybe want to think about is there are some things out there that are pending. And this sometimes gets a little touchy with this group, but it I would call it something in the realm of accountability, which is part of our charter. As an example, the governor in 2021 issued an executive directive mandating that state agencies give preference to in their purchasing to companies that don't use intentionally added PFAS products. My understanding is that really hasn't been much enforced or executed on. And I think it would be really nice to have a discussion with whoever is administering that to understand what the problems are, and maybe do some brainstorming. That might spin off a subcommittee. I don't know. But it's that kind of thing. We have, I harp on this. We have the fish guidelines coming out. We're in the stone ages on fish guidance in Michigan. They're coming out soon. I hope that they will take advantage of the toxicity values in the most recent EPA guidance. I fear that they won't. There's been a lot of tap dancing for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm concerned. I would say on the public notification thing, perhaps we might think about the concept that the COG is worried about. Are there other ways to achieve the concept in a more targeted way than I think Eagle is more comfortable with kind of broad educational things, and I'm all for those. But I'm not confident that Eagle fully grasps the concept yet. I really don't. And I think that maybe some more discussions around that might be in order. I think there are some pretty burning issues out there, and I think it would be nice to have a dialogue and a discussion with folks in Eagle and in the state government to brainstorm and talk about. So I just sort of throw some of those ideas out and also throw that concept out as something we might think about doing going forward.
And the concept is accountability on current things. Is that what you're talking about, Tony?
Well, accountability and addressing substantive issues around PFAS, how the state government is handling them, and how and what this group might offer, in terms of perspective. Because I think too often, as an example, the products, the purchasing order, there really hasn't been a dialogue about that. Maybe it is impossible. Maybe it's not. Maybe there are some ideas that could get thrown out. This group is supposed to be an advisory group. Let's hear what the concerns are, and let's maybe see if we have some ideas that might be of help, in that regard. So, and I can think of a lot of other issues and as we sort of approach this, but I think there still is a place for that in this discussion beyond education and awareness.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thanks, Tony. Put your hand down. I'll call on you again.
Down.
Other thoughts or ideas on this? All right, this gives us a start. Oh, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like what Tony was saying, because when I look at some of the things that these teams are supposed to be doing, especially from a legislative point of view or from the governor or director, if there's been agreements made and they're not being followed up with, I mean, how does one even know that that's the case? I mean, what Tony was mentioning, even just simply just contracting with responsible suppliers that aren't intentionally putting bad materials in people's products. If I get asked that question, I mean, I have no way of knowing how to even begin to manage that, or even to know what the issues are. And I think there's a gap there. I think there's something. If it's the COG that does that, somehow shouldn't Eagle and the governor or the legislators, I mean, isn't there some accountability that needs to be built in here? For us, what we're doing is it's just all kind of noise and good stuff, but it doesn't change anything. Just my comments. I don't know how to solve that problem really, but.
No, and I know Abby isn't on tonight. Amy, I don't know if you know about well, we could talk about that later, but I do think that's a good idea. I think it would be good to have somebody come back and talk about how they've done that procurement policy that was signed, and is it being done? I think it is easier to be done than what maybe we think it is, because I know other states are. It'd also be interesting to hear what other states are doing too, because I think there's a lot of other states that are far ahead of us in how they're managing PFAS in their environment. Yeah. Jason.
12 miles.
Yeah, I was just going to weigh in on the screening bit, because the company that I work for, and I personally not involved with this, but we do support clients looking for PFAS in their supply chain. So there are ways of screening, particularly safety data sheets for PFAS components. And you can do it with machine learning or artificial intelligence and screen thousands of products fairly quickly and cheaply. but it's not free.
Okay, good to know. It's good to have experts on here. All right. All right, this has given me some ideas then moving forward. So stay tuned. Mary, did you have something you wanted to talk about with the in-person meeting?
I did, unless you want to do the MPART update first.
Oh, go ahead with the MPART updates if somebody's doing that. Amy, are you doing that, or Kelly, are you doing that? Is anybody doing an MPART update?
Yep, I got it real quick.
Okay.
Just two things. We added 2 new sites, which are summarized at the top of the MPART webpage, just as usual. But 2 sites went live on March 3rd. One was Roto Finish, which is a Superfund site in Portage. They made specialized equipment to deburr and polish metal parts. Highest concentration was 16 parts per trillion PFOA. This site is immediately adjacent to the Kalamazoo Battle Creek Airport, and we did proactive sampling around that airport in 2020 or 2021. So no reservoir sampling will happen beyond that. The other site is the Portage Paper Mill Superfund site. That one had a high concentration of 420 parts per trillion PFOA. We sent out 45 letters on February 19th, and so I'm sure our contractor's in the process of scheduling the reservoir sampling for that one. So those are the 2 latest ones. We have a bunch more sites to qualify for moving through our process. So we've got, again, groundwater over our criteria and the source of PFAS. So we've got a stack of these that we're trying to move through. So that did result in some additional process changes, and which I think Brad touched upon a little bit. Our MPART form is going to be a little bit shorter now. And we're going to be adding links moving forward to new sites that will provide additional information for people to find on InRide or EnviroMap or whatever database is relevant based on that site. So we'll get more detailed information people can dive into, but probably a shorter summary actually on the website. And then we will be offering calls with local officials just for sites that involve residential wells. So it will allow us to place more sites out there, more information out there quicker, but we won't be having as many local official calls. So those are the things that are that were scheduled for the update today.
So just a question on that. So my family who lives in Kalamazoo and Portage was impacted by that. They could go to the MPART site, and how would they find the information on these things?
On these new sites?
Yeah, how would they know if they're in that new site area?
Based on the maps, a lot of these will include the outlines for where we're doing residential well sampling.
But I mean, so they could go on the site, they could put in their address or something and find it?
Oh, no, unfortunately, we're not that sophisticated, no. So, for example, we've got a site or an investigation going on in the North 30th Street area of Kalamazoo, and we have a map out there from Google, and it's got a boundary on it, so you can eyeball kind of whether you're in the sampling area or not. And then obviously, if it expands and we have the opportunity to update it, we can, we'll provide an update to the map. But in general, every single one of our write-ups has got a site lead contact on it. So the best thing really to do is to reach out to the site lead to see, if you're in the sampling area or not, because they do expand, based on the results. Yep. And, our site lead will have the best handle on that.
I just worry that it's an incredible website if you're really good at navigating websites. But when I say to people to go to My Enviro, their eyes roll back in their head and they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. So
exactly. So all the write-ups will still be based off of the MPART, main page. So again, new ones go at the very top of the page.
Yeah.
And they get cycled through after 30 days. But under the PFAS and investigations and sites, all those sites are searchable.
They're listed there still the same.
They're all listed. Yep.
Okay.
So at least your basic stuff is always going to be there for all of our new sites. And the contact person will always be there in case somebody's got questions.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Sorry you have so many new sites. That's not good, but at least we're finding them. All right, Mary, go ahead.
Okay. I want to express my gratitude for all of the members who did respond to the survey. It was very helpful. We did have 14 people who said yes, that they would like to attend. 12 of them said yes to either the April or the May dates. One person can only attend in April and one person can only attend in May. And we had 6 people who regretted that they couldn't come. And of those, 3 of them would like to have a Zoom option if possible. So, or Zoom or Teams or however. So it seems to me that we do have interest and members would like to get together. And does anybody have an idea on how to choose April or May?
I'm guessing part of that will depend on what MPART can do as far as space and a place and availability and all of that.
Okay.
So I wonder if we should connect with Abby when she gets back and find all that out and then send out a date from there.
Can I also ask members, would you prefer to have just more of a, not really a presentation or anything, but more of an introduction of possible staff people from Eagle, and then the rest of the time be spent on just mingling with fellow COG members? Or do you want more of a formal type presentation? That would be helpful for us and for MPART to do regarding planning. So I don't know if people want to just speak up or if you want to put it in the chat. Or there's Lois. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'd like to see a combination of that. I don't think you mean an all-day meeting. I'm not, because you'll need to account for travel time and we got to eat. You know, I don't know what that might throw in there. And then think about getting out of town if we're meeting downtown Lansing before the rush hour traffic starts building up, because that could be a bit of a pain getting out of town. But I'd like to maybe hear from some staff and the kind of work that they're doing in the MPART world. It doesn't have to be real long, 5-10 minutes, and then time for questions. Maybe walk through the website even a little bit if there's any confusion about where stuff is, and with some mingling time, getting to know you time. And I'm still interested in doing a field trip out to a site where there's some action going on that can be observed, along with some narration about history and the site, if that's something people are interested in.
Thanks,
All right.
Lois.
Daniel.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking something similar, basically like a structured meet and greet is kind of what I think sounds appropriate to me. So with another group that I'm with, we have meetings every 6 months, and there's kind of the update splash, meet the new folks presentations at the beginning, where it's again just like 5-10 minutes, not at the very beginning. There's some mingling time at the beginning, and then get everybody together, 5-10 minutes that people just talk about what they're up to, what they're interested in. I think there would be good to have a space for that sort of thing. Maybe some sort of structure around what do we want to work on next. One thing I'd be interested in here, that there's a lot of talk about us brainstorming and thinking about what we want to do. I would like to hear from agency folks across DNR, Eagle, all the agencies, where holistically they would like to see activities go next. So, thinking 2 years out, 4 years out, outside their own scope of work maybe, but where do they see need for improvement or need for action? That would be informative to me. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Daniel. That sounds great.
I think the other conversation, Mary, that we had was trying to figure out a time. There was talk of, do we have it late afternoon, evening-ish, because people work, or do we have it during the day, but then expect people to take time off of work? And I know you sent that out in the survey, Mary. I don't know if we got responses to that.
I put evening because that's what seemed to be the consensus between leadership and Kelly. But since then, Kelly has said that they, could maybe find an adaptation of that too. So what do members think? Would you prefer to have maybe just afternoon type meeting, or what would be the best?
Like a 3 to 6 or a 2 to 5 or? Connie, is that your phone on?
Yeah, I have my phone. Can you hear me?
We can hear everything.
Okay, I don't know how to mute it.
Kelly, do you know how to mute her phone?
Yeah.
You're fine if you can't. That's all right. Oh, now you're muted. Sorry. Anybody have a preference for time? Amy Stockman says she likes 2 to 5.
I would like that as well. Daniel, does that work better for you as well?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking through 2 to 5 sounds about right, I think.
All right. John says 2 to 5 works. Cynthia said she'd have to attend virtually, but earlier is good for me. So, all right. So Lois, yes, please.
Are we talking Con Hall in downtown Lansing as a meeting place?
I don't know yet.
I don't think it has been set yet.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure this out.
MPART we would have to do it downtown.
Yeah.
We don't have a budget, and so yes, we have rooms available in Con Hall. We are open to whatever time. We just want to make sure that if we're going to have agency staff there, members are going to show up. So
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure we have a big enough room reserved. So Con Hall is likely where it would be. And there
Kelly,
would be parking. So members would have to pay for parking.
Kelly, do you think you or the staff could weigh in on whether April or May might be better?
I would obviously have to check with Abby's schedule. She'd be coming from up north, but I think.
Well, just, I guess sooner would be better to find out for everybody to plan, but either way.
Looking at people's day-to-day schedules, I would say May is probably going to be the best bet for agency staff to have availability. Just
okay.
People's calendar fills up quick.
So let's plan on later in the like a 2 to 5, and we will get with you with the date in the next 2 weeks so people can plan, and we'll try to work on a location. How does that sound? But I love the idea of a kind of a structured meet and greet with some discussion, kind of some guided discussion, and just a chance to get to know each other, and we'll figure out food. So
and thanks again to everybody who responded. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's all we had on the agenda. So you get part of your night back, since we all love these evenings. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Anybody else got anything to add? All right. Well, it's great to see everybody, or at least see everybody's names. Thank you for everything. And I will see you again next month. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks,
Bye.
Amy.
Take care, everybody.